Welcome to Podnutz Pro, episode number 19, the show where we take you from residential into small business, enterprise, tech support, IT support, and that's what we do. I mean, there's a lot of guys, and I say this at the beginning of every show because it's true. A lot of guys have emailed and said we would like to learn small business. We would like to know when we need to use a server. Should we do a peer-to-peer network or a server, or what kind of router should we get for this business? I'm afraid of small business clients, all this stuff. That's the kind of stuff we hope to answer in this show, and hope you guys enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Let me introduce the guys that make that happen for the show, starting with Matt Rainey from ah-computers.com. Yo, Matt.
Hello, Steve.
What's going on with you tonight?
It's been a good week. It's going so good so far this week, so it's a good night.
All right, good.
I finished work at a reasonable time today.
Yeah, nobody's sick or anything either, right? Everything's good. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
somebody's
as
sick?
of right now. As of right now.
Okay, good.
That could change in 5 minutes, though.
All right, and of course, Lalo Nunez from BetterPCTech.com. Yo, Lalo.
What's going on?
What's going on with you?
It's Wednesday.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Thank you for that
Happy hump
observation.
day. Yeah.
Lalo likes the hump day.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the show here. Let me pull up your notes, Matt, and why don't you start us off as usual?
Alrighty. One thing that's a benefit in small business server, one of the big selling points is Exchange. And a lot of people don't like Exchange. They're afraid of Exchange. They don't like Outlook for whatever reason. But you're going to have to deal with it with working with small businesses. They use it. They like it. So
you have no choice in the matter.
You have no choice.
You're a victim of
If you go in and try
Microsoft.
and put them on Thunderbird, I mean, they're just not going to have one. You have Exchange server, so you need it. It's designed to work with Outlook. And with Outlook, even without Exchange, with Outlook, you're dealing with PST files and OST files, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
So let's just look at a scenario where you don't have Exchange, just somebody who is using Outlook. I'm not sure if everybody may know, but Outlook has what's called a PST file.
The dreaded. You should say before every time you say that.
Dreaded. See, I don't dread PST files, but you have to know what they are, how to maintain them, things like that. So it's a PST file. Everything's in there. I think it's convenient because you have everything in there: mail, contacts, calendar. It's all in one file.
It's all in one. It's all in one basket. It's all able to be corrupted at one time. I don't know. I've had bad experiences with them.
That's right. It can all be corrupted at one time, but I deal with this every day, and I've been doing this every day for 12 years at least. And I really haven't come across that many PST files that were so corrupted that I could not retrieve data from them.
Okay. All right. I take your word for it.
I'm sure it happens. And recently, with Outlook 2003 and beyond, they've changed the structure of the PST file, so it's more reliable. Prior to that, Outlook 2002 and before, they used what was called an ANSI PST file, which is the format of the PST file.
Okay. After
Outlook 03 and later, they switched to a Unicode PST file. These can be larger. They don't get corrupt nearly as much.
What's the difference? Just number of characters able to be used or something?
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing. This is a good example. That's the kind of thing I don't even know, and I don't even care. I know that it has a limit of 2 gigabytes and one doesn't. That's all I really need to worry about.
Okay.
But it is the way that the structure inside, the way it holds the data is. But as a tech, I mean, I don't have any interest in learning the actual workings of the PST file. I don't care.
You.
I'm sure some other does, and they can look it up on Wikipedia or whatever. But
they probably already are.
Probably so. So with 2002 and before, you have these ANSI PST files. 2 gigabytes is a limit, and you hit that, you start getting corrupt. And back then, it wasn't as easy to hit 2 gigabytes in 02 and before. I didn't see a lot of PST files that were reaching that almost 10 years ago. The problem came in when people started going to Outlook 2003 or later, and they upgraded their version of Outlook.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen is if you upgrade Outlook '02 to Outlook '03 or even '07, it updates the program, but the PST file is unchanged. So you could still be having Outlook '03 or '07 with an older style PST file that
Okay.
was limited to 2 gigs.
Really?
That's where I saw a lot of issues
2 gigs.
because they were reading one of the benefits to moving to these newer versions of Outlook was you could have large PST files. So they just assumed that they were running the latest version of Outlook, they could have large PST files.
Right. Mr.
But
Rainey,
that
and
Mr. Did you say Mr.
I
Rain?
said Mr. Rainey. I sure did. Now, what would happen for those folks at home that if your PST goes over 2 gigabytes?
if it goes over 2 gigabytes, what happens sometimes you open up Outlook and it just tells you can't open data file or something similar to that. Pretty much it's corrupted at that point. The tool you can run that I usually run is a program called Scan PST, and I forget exactly where it is. If you just do a search on your computer for scanpst.exe, you run that little utility, point it toward your PST file, and it runs. It tries to repair it, and it usually does,
Right.
and you can open it. Now, the problem is there's no way if you had an old style ANSI PST file and let's say you went to Outlook '07, there's no way to convert it. You've got to go into Outlook, create a new data file that's the Unicode, and it's going to say Outlook '03 and later, I think, or Outlook '03, '07, some kind of format that says Outlook '03 to '07. Create a new PST file, and then you import all your mail from your other PST file into that PST file. That's the only way to convert. It's not convert. That's the only way to get your mail into the newer PST format.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So there's no converting it.
What I used to do is I worked for a company that everybody had larger than 2 gigs PST files due to because they did with maps, so the attachments were very large. So what I would do is I forget what the freeware tool is, and I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Steve. There's a freeware tool. I think it's called Outlook Mail Attachment Remover. It takes the attachment from the PST file, then I will compact the PST file back, and it will take a 2.5 gig PST file and crunch it down to like maybe 300 megs. So
Really?
yeah, but it's a pain because you have to keep doing that every
Right,
so
right,
often,
right.
so it doesn't solve the issue. But to solve the issue, you want to do what Matt is saying. You convert it to the new PST file, the format, and then you're good to go. But I'll send you that tool because that tool has saved my butt.
Okay. Hey, wait, one thing real quick. When the PST file gets too big, does it slow down performance?
Yes.
It does? Just curious.
I mean, like Matt's saying, you'll get real oddball errors. It can't open the PST file. It'll be slow and sluggish. I mean, you'll know that there's an issue there. And then you look at I've seen PST files up to 10, 11 gigs. And this tool that I'm mentioning, again, I can't remember what it's called, but I'll send you a link. It saved those files, and I've compacted them down to less than 2 gigs. So
Sweet.
Yep. It won't, and you can also do it built in. There's a utility built in the Outlook that can compact them as well.
right.
Now, let's say you running Outlook '07 and you're not sure what type of PST file you're running, or Outlook '03. And there's ways to do it in every version of Outlook, but let's just use Outlook '03 as an example.
Okay.
You can go to, in Outlook, you go to the properties of the personal folder, or personal folder properties. On that tab, there's an advanced button toward the bottom. Click on that. On this screen, there's a compact now button. You can pick that to click on compact now if you want to compact it. You could also, in this same window, it's got format, and it'll tell you right there, like it might say personal folders file 97 to 2002. If it says that, you're using the older style personal folder. If it doesn't say that, if it says something else, I think it might just say personal folders file. I think the new one says that's the Unicode.
I see.
But if it's got that personal folders file and then in parentheses 97 to 2002, that's the older one. So that's the easy way to tell which type of PST file you're dealing with in
Okay.
Outlook. And that's in 03. They all have different ways to do it, but you can tell in each version which type you're using, which is important if you're having issues and you just want to know, well, let me go, it's getting corrupt, it seems, every 2 or 3 weeks. Let me go check. If it's that one, create a new one and move it out of there to the new style.
Right, and then I also believe in that the window, if you have a bunch of folders, it'll tell you the size of the folder, so you can narrow it down to the folder that has the most size in it. So
Yeah, I know you can do that for Exchange. I have that in my notes somewhere, I think further down. Let's see. But anyway, we'll get to that part, I think. I know how to do it to see your Exchange mailbox size, which I have in my notes. Okay, so let's go back to the file sizes.
Okay.
2 gigabytes is for the old one, 02 and before. Outlook 03 and 07 has a maximum suggested size of 20 gigabytes. And in the registry, it's also set as the default maximum size. So it's the maximum recommended by Microsoft, and in the registry, it's actually limited to 20 gigabytes in the registry by default.
Okay.
Outlook 2010 has a maximum of 50 gigabytes, and that's set at the maximum in the registry. Both of these can be changed with registry entries. It's not recommended to do so. There is no reason to have a PST file that is over 50 gigabytes.
now,
But I bet people do.
I know. Now, Mr. Rainey, what's the largest PST file that you've seen? Out of curiosity.
I've seen, let's see, I'll just say this week. The largest one I've seen this week was 13 gigs.
Okay.
Maybe that was last week. It was a week from dating back today was 13 gigs.
Gotcha.
And in fact, this is why I brought up this topic, because this customer was complaining about how slow Outlook was. And now this wasn't a PST, this is the other type of file, was the OST, which is similar. So it's not really, it wasn't a PST, it was an OST I saw. So PST, I'm not really sure. Probably the maximum PST I've seen maybe 8 or 9 gigs, because we don't deal with PST files too much. We deal with more OST files with Exchange, thankfully, because I don't like this non-Exchange setup, as you know by now.
So PST is just Outlook, OST is Exchange.
PST is short for personal store, and OST is short for offline store.
Okay.
So let's say if you were the home user, were using Outlook 2003 to get their POP3 on Gmail, that will be creating a PST file.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, if you're dealing with an Exchange client by default, it's going to be an OST if it's enabled. You could have a home user who's checking an Exchange account and they have an OST. But yeah, if you're popping it, you're more than likely going to be having a personal store.
Okay.
Matt said if you're popping it. That's awesome, dude. I'm going to use that at work. You're popping it.
It's good for phishing. It's good for mail. Just pop it. Now, in a business, if they're using Outlook with no Exchange, there's a debate over where you should store the PST file. If you're in a business and you have a server, most people want to put their PST files on the server because they're backed up. They're not backed up on your local computer. But this is a problem because a PST file should never be stored anywhere but the local computer.
Mhm.
Now, this is against the centralized data in administration, but PST files are not designed to be an enterprise network solution. They're local files. That's where they should be.
Okay.
So if you have a PST file, if you're using Outlook in a business environment, for performance, it's got to be local. You've got to figure out how to back it up because it's got to be local. Now, most people do put them on the server, but things happen, and they might not even realize that it's because of all the PST files.
Does it slow performance down having them on the server?
Definitely does.
Okay.
And there's a reason. I don't get into much technical behind the scenes stuff, but this in particular, a PST file is a file access driven method of message storage. And that's straight from Microsoft's word mouth. File access driven method of message storage. File access driven means that the computer uses special file access commands. Sounds important. That the operating system provides to read and write data to the file. This does not work well on network connections, WAN or LAN connections. WAN, network, WAN, LAN, they use network access driven methods, which is different than file access driven.
Right.
So when you make a request to write or read from your PST file, it's trying to use file access driven methods, but it's not on your local computer. So then it's got to send more commands to the operating system, and then that has to send the network access driven methods. So you're doing a lot of extra steps to be able to read this PST file.
Right, right.
And let's just use an example of a bigger company, even, 500 users. Let's just say 100 users or 50 users. If you send one mail to everybody in your company, and let's just say it's 50, 100, 500, whatever, each message, each user has to have that email stored in their PST file. Exchange has single instance store. So if you send one message to 500 people in your company, it's only stored once, but that's different. If you send this message to 50 people and they all have their own PST file, they've all got to write that to their own PST file. And let's just say that for whatever reason, in order to write this email message to their PST file, there's not enough space. The NTFS system has to allocate more disk space. So during that process, to allocate more space on the disk to meet the needs of the PST file growing, you could end up blocking up the whole volume while the master file table is being updated. So the whole server could lock up because email is being sent to the company.
Mm-hmm.
And you would never think that just a few email messages sent to everybody could lock up your server. So you're trying to figure out, why my server locking up? Well, if all your PST files are on the server, you need to look at that.
Exactly. And I've been at some gigs where they had PST files, and what I would do at night, I would just wrote a simple batch file, at 12 o'clock in the morning. It would take all the local PST files and copy them to somewhere on the server. That's how I got around that. And it's, because what Matt's saying is true, a PST file for best performance and reliability has to be stored on the local machine.
Yep. So, and for performance, all operations take longer when storing the PST file anywhere other than local machine, a NAS, external hard drive. If it's not on a local machine, it's going to take longer. And the write operations to your PST file can take four times longer than read operations. So you might think storing a few PST files on the server are no big deal, but a symptom of this is going to be people wondering why Outlook is running slow. Outlook runs slow. Tech people don't like it. They accuse Outlook of being a terrible email client and Exchange as being a pig. When really it's just the way that it's set up. I mean, server guys think all data, and I agree, all data should be on the server. That's where it's backed up.
Right.
I can control it, but the PST files are an exception. They should not be there.
Yeah, but if you're in a server environment using Exchange, why would people still use PST files?
Well, that was if you didn't have Exchange.
Right.
Or
if you...
Yeah, this is not Exchange. This is Outlook with mail hosted off-site somewhere, and you're just pulling down the mail using Outlook.
But Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I had a Exchange environment, if I archive my mail, if it's not controlled centrally, that archive would go into a PS2 file. Is that correct?
Right, but if you archive, it's going to go to a local archive PST file. Right. I don't like those either, because I don't think that's a good solution. There are devices that you can use that archive the mail for the users.
Right, and that's what most environments, bigger environments, have a device that handle all that, because you don't want Bob or Mary, archiving their own PST and they lose it and then they call you because they have no idea what they did with it or how they archived it. A central solution will archive, everybody's mail for the last year, or instead of Mary doing it for the last 10 days and Bob doing it for the last 3 months.
Yep. No, definitely. If you have a large environment, you don't want them.
Yeah.
I'll do a search on the computer because the user says my mail's missing. I do a search for star.pst on the full computer. I'll find like 30 PST files. And you can sort them by date to see which ones are written to last. And you start with the latest one. Is this your mail? No. Is this your mail? No. Is this your mail? No. Oh, there it is.
Oh yes, what a painful experience. It's painful. It's like especially when it's 11:45 and you're about to go to the Waffle House for lunch, and they can't find that one freaking email from 4 years ago, and you're going like Matt's saying, "This PST? No, this PST," and then it makes you want to just jump off a cliff.
Yes. I suppose I could just tell them to find their own PST file, but that doesn't work very well. So I do a search for them. And if I find a bunch of PST files, because I've seen a lot where even with Exchange, they have Exchange, but for some reason they told to archive 2 weeks of mail, and you've got 10 emails in one archive PST file. You've got 40 emails in archive 1.pst. I just pull them all back in Exchange and turn off auto archive because I don't like those bunch of those small archive PST files laying around. Now, if I find an archive PST file that's 6 gigs, I'll leave it there.
Right, and when you're archiving mail, just think of a game plan. Do it. Some people do it for every 6 months, every 3 months. Some people do it for over a year, because like what Matt's saying, if you do it every month, the more files you have, multiply that by the user, and I mean it just becomes a mess.
They do become a mess, and that's I think why people don't like it. But the users need to be trained. I turn off auto archive because I don't like it, and it confuses the user when they get these pop-ups saying, "Do you want to archive mail?" I just turn it off. We manage mailbox sizes differently if we need to. I don't want them archiving things. If it gets out of hand, I'll make sure that we put in some kind of archive device for them. And in a larger environment, you don't want that to happen. In a small environment, 5 users, 6 users, it's not that bad to manage PST files.
Right.
In a larger environment, it's more of a pain. Now, Microsoft has 2 suggestions. Instead of using PST files on the network, here's their 2 suggestions. Use Exchange or use Outlook on a terminal server. We're not going to talk about terminal servers today. That's a good option for some people. But Exchange, I like Exchange. Some people don't.
We know you like Exchange.
You need to learn how to use it because
Exchange likes you, Mr. Rainey.
It does. Even it has its issues, I'll agree to that. But if you just know how to overcome those issues and standard maintenance, it's no big deal.
It's what everybody uses too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I might have 100 Exchange servers out there for clients. If I had issues with Exchange as often as you would hear about from techs who don't like Exchange, none of them would be on Exchange. I could not manage all these computers and servers if they had constant problems.
Right.
I could.
And and what Matt's saying is very correct. Exchange is used throughout small businesses. I mean, it's not going away. So if you don't want to learn it or adopt it, you're actually hurting yourself. It does take a learning curve, but once you grasp how it works and the centralized management is awesome, and like Matt's saying, if you put a game plan with the archiving, with how you're gonna roll this out, life becomes it's very easy to a point where it's a few clicks to manage a problem. Then the only thing, there's a learning curve to know where to look and Exchange when the user is having problem A, B, and C. But I mean, again, with everything, it's just a learning curve. But once you get past that, you'll be a whiz. And I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Cool.
So when you use Exchange and Outlook together, your mail doesn't go to a PST file. All your mail goes to your Exchange mailbox. And that Exchange mailbox is on the server. Now, Microsoft has made OST files which is an offline store that is supposed to shield customers from network disconnects. So if there's a slight problem on the network and you get disconnected, the user is not supposed to notice. Your entire mailbox is synced down to your OST file on your local computer, and you continue working as if nothing happened inside of Outlook. That's what it's designed for.
In most cases.
Right. The same thing with offline files and folders, which I turn off. I don't, it's the same thing for offline store. It's supposed to be seamless to the user. If you've got to reboot the Exchange server or the small business server, they just might get a little message at the bottom saying trying to connect or disconnected, and it's supposed to reconnect when the server's available.
See, how is that the seamless? And what Matt's saying, when you're having a network issues, they get a balloon tip on the bottom saying, trying to reestablish a connection, or it has been restored. Every time that balloon pops up, I would get a phone call. I mean, and I was like, hey, is the server down? No, but I got a little balloon tip or something. So
Yeah, it's not. They should have a way to suppress those
yes,
if they really want to have to shield the client from that. Because you will get, I got a message. What should I do? Well, what does it say now? It says it's connected. Okay, well then it's fixed.
yeah, exactly. Can you send mail? Yes. Thank you for calling me.
And see, okay, but that's another issue. Some users won't notice that balloon at all. And there's where the problem to me comes in. They're trying to send mail for whatever reason, they got to set to offline mode.
Yes.
So at the bottom right says disconnected. You get a call and they say, I have to hit send and receive to get mail. Or I'm not getting mail. And you ask them, does it say disconnect at the bottom right? Yes. Okay, well, click on that, click on uncheck work offline or whatever, work online, whatever it says to work online.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it starts working again. I don't like that cached exchange mode. It might shield users from network issues, but if they don't have network issues, they continue working as if nothing's wrong.
Yes, and what Matt's saying, I can't speak for everybody out there, that was my number one problem, where a user would not get mail, and they would tell me if I had send and receive, it comes right through, but if Bob sends me one, it never comes through, and it was that you have to uncheck the work offline. That was my first line of defense when someone couldn't get mail. It just drove me nuts.
Right. And the cache exchange mode also is not designed, it's on by default. When you set up Outlook on a network with Exchange and you set up an Exchange account, cached exchange mode is on by default. I don't think it should be. It should not be used on workstations inside the office or the building that have good connections to the Exchange server. It can actually slow down performance because it's trying to, when you do something in Outlook and you're in cache exchange mode, those changes aren't written back to the Exchange server right away. So you can see a reduced performance. You might send a mail, it might not go right away, or you might not get it right away. Things can happen when you're using cache exchange mode that you don't want to happen. Another thing, changes to the address book, changes to public folders. You might not see those changes until Outlook decides to update from the Exchange server. And a lot of times, if you're doing shared calendars, boss might put an entry in a calendar and you don't see it. You might not see it for 5 or 10 minutes. And that's not acceptable for some people who are making an appointment 4 or 10 minutes from now to go do something. And they complain that I never got the appointment. Well, because your Outlook decided not, you might have synced right before that change was made. And now you might sync in 5 or 10 minutes and then it'll pop up. So turning off the cache exchange mode can solve those problems. Another thing that I don't like about it is it's kind of a security risk. Remember, it pulls down your whole mailbox to the local machine. So let's say you've got a boss's computer. Everything in his mailbox, calendar, everything is pulled down to his local machine. There are tools that can easily convert an OST to a PST, so you can just read them. Now all of his mail's there for anybody to read who has access to his local computer. So some people don't like that.
Right.
OST files I think, can become corrupted much more easily than PST files. I get calls all the time where somebody says, when I open up Outlook, it just says data file has not been closed successfully, and it's trying to repair, and it repairs for an hour, and then it opens. When I close it, the same thing happens. That means the OST file is corrupted, and it's trying to scan the OST. Now you can just delete the OST file safely and it'll rebuild. So your whole mailbox will sync down to your local machine again. But if you've got a 4 or 5 gig mailbox, that's going to take a while, even on a good connection.
Hmm.
So when that happens, the first time I get a call with that happening, I delete the OST file, turn off exchange, cached exchange mode, and they're happy and they go along their business. Now, there's a couple of advantages to cached exchange mode, which I don't think are that big of a deal. The junk email filter inside of Outlook only works when cached exchange mode is turned on. But I think the Outlook junk email filter is ridiculous.
It is junk.
Why?
Because it doesn't catch anything.
It doesn't catch anything. But it will take the email and put it in the junk folder.
Oh, that's the worst.
Right. Artificial intelligence is thinking you won't like this message.
What it has to learn, right? Doesn't it have to learn?
No, it never learns. No.
It never learns.
It's junk.
It never learns. I've seen laboratory rats learn faster.
Buy a Barracuda filtering the device, I'm telling you.
Yes. If Outlook junk email filter is trying to filter your mail, it's going through so many steps already. That's the last line of defense. That's the last thing that gets checked.
Okay.
So if you have good email filtering, your Outlook junk email filter should never catch anything.
Should it even be turned on?
Well, it's on. Well,
it's on by default.
I leave it. It's on by default. Okay. I leave it on because nothing ever. Our filtering takes care of everything.
Okay.
Now I might get a false positive now and then from it, but
now what Matt's saying, most environments have a different appliance that handle like the junk mail. To give you an idea, I won't go into great detail, but a Barracuda spam filter will get the spam before it hits the mailbox. And to give you, I was a believer when I was at one of my jobs, and I got one at the trial, and we actually had bought one. It caught 80% of the emails going throughout the whole entire company was caught by this thing as spam.
Really?
80%.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then like that junk email folder that Matt is talking about, it used to read on some people 1,000. It went down to maybe 2 a day because this appliance caught everything. Then I got
there was that much spam going through this company?
There was that much spam, and this is the same job that the guy asked me that he won the Nigerian lottery, and if he was sure. But I mean, this thing caught so much spam, and it decreased my calls. You know, like the whole maintenance deal. So, if it's that much of an issue, like Matt's saying, get an appliance, but that's a different show.
It's spam. It's viruses, and it removes that stuff before it hits your Exchange server.
Mm-hmm.
If it's hitting your Exchange server, that means your Exchange server's got to do more work. Not only process all this mail and put more stress on your Exchange server, but the possibility of getting viruses through there and everything else. You just don't want that.
Now, if you're in an environment where you're telling me, Lalo, that's great, but you're a doofus because my company will never pay for it, Barracuda will actually give you one on a trial basis for 30 days or 60 days. This thing includes reports. And I went to my boss and said, look, 10,000 emails got caught within the 2 days. He's like, really? And we're buying it. I mean, these reports will sell the device.
Interesting. It's pretty smart.
Yeah.
And there's a place that sells them refurbished with some mods on it. You know, you can start off at $400 for one.
Ah.
I mean, these things are well worth it.
A modded Barracuda.
Yeah, they have upgrades, so they may upgrade the processor. They may put some more RAM in it.
Let me pull it up. These things better look cool. It's as cool as they sound. Was it Barracuda spam filtering or something?
Yeah.
It's an actual piece of hardware, right?
Yep.
So I'm looking at mine, and just today, we've blocked over 88,000 messages. That's blocked. That's not quarantined. That's questionable. That's blocked. Over 88,000. Quarantined over 4,000, and we've allowed 25,000.
Hmm.
So it's blocking and quarantine over 92,000 and allowed 25,000.
Yeah, these things look pretty cool.
So so with the offline or the cached exchange mode enabled, you get the fantastic use of the junk email filter in Outlook.
Okay.
Now, what's also a security risk with that OST file can be a good thing. I've had a few instances where we had to recover data from an OST file. If cache exchange mode was turned off, I wouldn't have had the OST file to recover data from.
Okay.
But if you need to recover data from an OST file, you've had some kind of serious catastrophe that you can't recover mail from your Exchange server.
Hmm.
So you've got something else going on if you need to recover mail from an OST file. But if you need to, it is there if you need to. It's not a backup. So don't think, well, I don't need to back up my Exchange mailbox because I've got a built-in backup of every mailbox on every person's machine. No, that's ridiculous. You can, if you need to. I've had to do it, I think, twice to recover, and this was
Really?
because, the user took the computer, the company closed down, and like a year later, he's not connected to the Exchange server anymore. The Exchange server doesn't exist anymore, but he still had his OST file. So I'm able to recover data from that. And in some cases, you can still, since you can still open up Exchange or open up Outlook, it'll just be disconnected. You can even, if you've got the original profile, let's say Mary was logging in as Mary on this domain, Mary's back. Mary takes her computer, and a year later, if Mary still logs in with her domain account and cached credentials, she can still open up Outlook and see all of her mail. At that point, she could export it to a PST file, no problem. In this instance, he just had it all copied to another hard drive. So he found an OST file and was able to save data from it.
I see.
So it helped out a couple times, but I think the performance issues outweigh any possible data recovery you might want to do years down the road.
Got it.
And some real world examples, we deal with Exchange a lot. So real world examples is users are calling just saying, when I open up Outlook, it takes forever to open Outlook. It takes forever to go between folders. You look at their Exchange mailbox and it's 13 gigs. So you go look at the OST file and it's 20 gigs because the offline store, unless you compact it, just going to keep growing and growing and growing. It's usually bigger than your mailbox because you may have deleted mail over the years, but that OST file just keeps growing.
Why?
Well, it's unless you compact it,
It's white space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha. So what do you
So
do? Delete it?
I delete it.
You delete
I
the-
delete it and turn it off. I just turn off cached exchange mode. Like the only reason you'd want to use cached exchange mode, in my opinion, is if you have a computer that maybe doesn't have a good connection back to the Exchange server. Maybe you have some kind of network issues, or maybe you have a notebook and you just want to be able to open up Outlook and pull something up once in a while when you're not in the office.
Right, or if you work in, I had to enable it because one job that I was at, they had like 200 and some laptop like users. They were never in the office, so I had to enable it just to make life easier for everybody.
I got it.
Right. So if you had a notebook and you didn't turn cache exchange mode on, that means you would have to be in contact with your Exchange server to open up Outlook. Otherwise, you get an error that can't load data file or can't find Exchange server or something similar. So but now if you don't have if you're working offline and you have a notebook and I've seen this before, the user goes somewhere, they open up Outlook, they type a message, they hit send, they think it sends, even though we told them if it doesn't say online or connected, it's not going to send. It'll just sit in the send times. When you make a connection to the Exchange server, then it's going to send.
Yes.
So I've seen users who go out in the field for a week and then they call me saying nobody's getting my mail. And I find out that it's all just in the sent items. Well, I hit send. Well, you might have hit send, but it goes across the internet, and that's not there.
Yes.
Then it's not gonna have any way to go out.
And you can always tell, but in Exchange, there's a portion where you can see the last time a user had logged in, and when Bob says, I've been sending mail for a week, and you see the last time his laptop checked in at the mailbox store 10 days ago, but then that's your answer right there.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's some cool things you can do with Exchange. You can see a lot of things when they logged in, when they logged out, a bunch of things. Now, there's one link here I wanted to talk. Inside of Outlook as Exchange, you can tell how big your Exchange mailbox is right from Outlook. And I had a link for that.
I don't see it in the notes. Did I? Is it there?
I don't know. It should be.
Oh, no. Link to change size of files in registry. We got reliableanswers.com, PST file version. How to tell if your OST file is Unicode or ANSI.
Come on.
Let's ask Mary.
I'm going to pull it up right now.
Damn, every time I try to pull Mary. There's Mary.
Mary, man, she's hot, dude.
She's the newest member of Podnutz Pro.
Yeah, she can call me anytime.
Do we pull up Mary?
Yeah, man.
Is that what we're doing?
Do you see her?
Okay, so no, let me see.
She's
I'm
hot.
looking at the different.
She's beautiful.
Oh, okay. That's not what I envisioned, but I'll go with that. It's not the typical office manager that I deal with, Steve.
Standards are high here at Podnutz.
Okay, so I'm in Outlook 2010. So if I go to File, Account Settings, I like that it has it twice. I click on my Exchange account. I'm going to the bottom right for more settings. Then I get a tab. I've got General, Advanced, blah, blah, blah. I go to Advanced. In here.
In where? Do you have a link? Do you want me to try to pull up a screenshot or something? Or no? All right, let's take your verbal instruction.
I could point you to my put my nifty screen camera on my other computer.
You know, the Skype does do screen. You can show your screen on Skype.
I'm on a different computer though.
Oh, okay.
I've got this computer and this computer. Well, my MacBook Pro.
Uh-huh.
So in here I've got Outlook data file settings. And it also tells me right here, Outlook is running in Unicode mode against Microsoft Exchange. So I know that my offline store, which is enabled, is in Unicode mode. So I can't find it right now. Isn't that great? I thought I had a link. But in Outlook, you can let me find that. In Outlook, you can tell how big your data file is. You can also do this, of course, from the Exchange console easily. Well, easily in Exchange 03. I'll put that caveat because Exchange 07 made it more difficult to do that. But that's a separate show.
If you want to look for that link, I'll just read some emails. We got 2 of them.
Okay.
Want to do that? All right. We got gonna get Mary off my computer here. Show emails, Podnutz Pro. Here we go. This is from Mary. I'm not kidding. He says, "Hey Steve, how are you? You have the best podcasts. I sit in my office and laugh, but I also learn something too. I just listened to the latest Podnutz Pro, and I thought since I was a real Mary, I would send you out a picture of my hand-me-down computer company, hand-me-down company computer, all decked out with a cutting-edge version of Windows XP Media Center 2005. It's a perfect match for my 200-pound CRT monitor. Too bad you guys are so far away. I have a drinking fountain here that needs a Cat 5 run to it. I really appreciate all the hard work you guys put into your podcast, so thanks again. Take care from Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. And
Yes.
this is Mary's computer. Also called Mary. Look at that beast of a screen. Wow.
That's nice. I like that big CRT. I like that.
I would
love
say
when you know what, Steve? And Lalo, I love it when people always leave their stickers on their computers.
Oh, that's funny.
You mean on the
I
desktops?
I peel those off every time. Every time.
I do on desktops most of the time, but on laptops, sometimes you got to keep the Intel sticker and the Radeon sticker. I keep.
I
them
leave
on.
those.
Yeah.
I leave those.
Yeah,
But all those other stickers, I
because-
peel them off.
Because you can't take them off. I don't know what force they got that glue from, but you can't take them off. Your house could catch on fire. What they'll find is a burnt up Steve and those decals on a laptop. I'm just saying.
I'll take them off. Now, yeah, sometimes I get in a bind because I rip it off and it's got all sticky stuff. I'm like, oh no.
It's the worst. They shouldn't put sticky stuff like that on the back of these stickers. They're meant
Well, then
to
I gotta get alcohol and I gotta clean it up. And
But I must say, like your Windows product key, if you just breathe on it, it just fades away. I'm like, wow, I guess you didn't spend the money on the product key.
I know the most important part of the machine.
yeah, the newer ones though, razor blade, the razor blade underneath there, lift it up gently, razor blade.
Really?
They come right off. Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
Interesting.
Not to. Well, I might want a sticker for something.
You just want to post it on like your car or something.
Hey, I found that link. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you how to do it because I don't have a link. I'm going to File in Outlook 2010.
Okay.
Then I'm going to under Mailbox Cleanup. They have cleanup tools, and then Mailbox Cleanup. In here, I can view mailbox size, and it tells me how big each one of my folders are inside of Outlook. It gives me a total size, and it gives me file size per folder.
Gotcha.
So that's how big you can tell.
Now,
My mailbox size is 1248853 kilobytes. They're kind of small. We have a archive appliance that archives our older mail, so my mailbox is kind of small.
yeah, man, and I believe that you can do the same in 03 and 07. Is that correct? I know I used to do it in 03 all the time.
Yeah, it's in a might be a different place, but they can all do it.
Gotcha.
And that's one of my peeves with Outlook. I'm sorry, Exchange 07, which we're going to cover one day. Exchange 03, I can go to one screen and just see all the mailbox sizes. In 07, you've got to run this commandlet to see it.
Really?
Yes. You can view individuals from an individual mailbox, but if you want to see them all, you've got to run a command up, whatever the PowerShell commandlet says, see all the sizes in one screen.
Man, gotta pop it, man. Gotta pop that.
Wow, you never heard that term before?
No, man.
I
I'll
haven't
tell you,
either.
Tomorrow, I cannot wait for the first person to ask me a question. But man, you gotta pop it. That's all I gotta say. What?
It applies to everything.
Everything now.
Everything. Okay, cool.
He's like, be quiet. Shut up. I like it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the other email is it's from Jorge. I'll send it to you guys. He has some feedback for the show that since we asked, but I'll let you guys read it first, and then we'll read it next week.
Wait. Is it bad? What can we read it?
It's not bad, but he gives suggestions, and maybe you guys want to hear them before I read it on the show.
Okay.
Because like maybe you might be thinking to yourself, these suggestions suck, you know. And I don't want you to say that on the show and offend him.
I wouldn't offend the people at home. Come on.
I actually think it's good suggestions, but I want you guys to read them first. That's all.
Okay.
We are open for any emails, suggestions, voicemails. Just send me a mail at mail@podnutz.com. If you want to email Matt, send him a mail at matt@podnutz.com. If you want to email Lalo, send him an email at lalo@podnutz.com.
Send any question, please. I don't care how minuscule the it might be. Can you believe 12 years ago I did not know the difference between a switch or a router or a hub or what was Cat5 cable, and now I still don't know. But I know how to spell the word. But I mean,
yeah, right. I was just rubbing it in my face because he had to explain that to me the other day.
I did not. No.
Between that router and a switch, or what did he explain to you, Steve?
Was it a hub and
And
a
a hub
switch?
and a switch.
Hub and a
Oh, a
switch.
hub and a
Yeah.
switch.
No,
yeah.
but I mean, any question, and that's what we're here for. I mean, I still ask tons of people at my daytime job tons of questions. I mean, I mean, that's how we learn.
And that's
agree.
the kind of thing I might not even think about, the difference between a hub and a switch. But that might be a good question, or it is a good question. And sometimes you want a hub, sometimes you want a switch, depending on what you're doing.
Actually, yeah. They both have their own purpose. I understand them now. Also, if you guys want to send us voicemails, send us You can just pick up a regular phone or your cell phone or whatever you have, but it's a regular phone line. 7076 Podnutz is the number. I will get something. I put it right at the bottom of the screen so you guys can check it out, but I don't have that up yet.
Yeah, sure.
Mary, could you get on that?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. Every time I try to go,
Every time
she's
I go to
always
Mary, go.
she's never there. Mary, get on that, would you? Thanks. All right. Anything else, guys, before we end off the show?
I have a funny story.
Yes.
I went out. It's funny for me. It's not funny for them. They didn't think it was funny. I have a client moving to a new building. They built a new building over 5,000 square feet, and I go out to look. They want to add wireless, so I wanted to do a little site survey, see how to get the coverage for the wireless access points.
Right.
And while I'm there, I said, well, let me see where we're going to put the server. Let me see your server room. She goes, oh, yeah, the server room. You're gonna like this. Over 5,000 square feet. Guess how big the server room was?
I don't know.
2 by 2.
So a room? I didn't know I didn't know it was legal to make rooms that small.
Well,
I've seen toilet paper stored in bigger rooms than that.
I said, this is not going to work. Oh, I was afraid you'd say that. I was like, I can't do anything in here.
Afraid.
Is there a door? Was there a door on it?
Is there AC
A
in
little, no, there's not. It's a little mini door. I mean, you could stand in the room. I said, what am I supposed to do in here? I said, and this is where all the phone equipment's gonna be, and the switches and the router, and I'm like, ugh. And in the middle of the 2 by 2, they've got a big conduit coming out to run cables underground. So even in my 2 by 2 floor space, I've got a big conduit in the middle.
How could you put anything in the middle of a 2 by 2? It's like it is the middle. What?
I said, what
How
am I
big was her
supposed
old
to do?
server room?
Maybe 5 by 5, but it was barely big enough for the rack that was in there.
Damn, that's not right.
I said, well, I said, the good news is we don't have to bring your rack over here.
because it can't fit apparently.
And so we had to walk around the whole building trying to find where we're going to put this server. In the end, they don't like it. I said, I just didn't know where to put it. So you tell me where you want it, and I'll tell you if it's going to work. We had to put it somewhere they weren't happy with it.
But where?
But I said,
Like
at
in
this
the
point,
break room?
there's not much I can do. This should have been addressed when the building was being designed.
Yes.
At this point, it's way too late.
Way too late. All the cables are run and
Right.
2 by 2, I loved it, with a conduit in the floor.
I should have said my unfavorite quote that I hear. Help me, help you. I want to punch people in the face that actually say that. So that's what you should have told her. Help me, help you find the room for your server. Let's find the home.
Now, I've seen people come up with solutions before. I've been to a place where I asked them, where is your switch? Where do all your network cables come together? Because when I go into a new place, I don't know. I could walk around the whole building and look,
Right.
but I ask them first, usually, do you know where your switch is? Do you know where your router is? You know, where all your stuff is. Oh, yeah. It's back here. Follow me. We're going down a hallway, and I can see the signs on the door. There's only 2 doors down this hallway. One says ladies, and one says men. We pass up the ladies, thankfully, and we go into the men's room.
No way.
Yes. So you walk in, you've got a straight ahead of the door is a sink. To the right is the place to do the men's business. And next to the door, on the wall, is all their stuff.
No.
All their switches,
So
network cabling.
awesome.
And you
Router?
did not take a picture with your fancy iPhone? I would have took multiple pictures.
This was before the days of iPhone.
Oh, okay.
But here's the funny part. We had a female tech working for us or with at the time, and we had to test all their network cables. So one person, we have a DSP. So you plug in one end, you plug in the other end, you tell it to do its test. I told her, you go on the other end where the cables terminate. I'll walk around and plug them in on this end. She goes, where are the cables? I said, last door on the left.
So awesome. That's great.
She went to open the door and she's like, I said, just go ahead.
Did she
So
do it?
She kind of knocks. She didn't hear anything, and then she went in. And then she just propped the door open so nobody would come in on her when she was in
That's
there.
pretty cruel.
I thought it was pretty funny.
The one job I went to, I had to allocate a Cisco switch. And I got to the building and I said, "Well, can you show me where your room is?" And they found the room, but no one had the key apparently. I said, "Well, I need this door open." And the guy goes, "Give me about 30 seconds." So he goes and he grabs a screwdriver and he pops the lock, like the door thing. And he goes, "There you go, buddy." I'm like, how secure is this? You know?
You mean he ruined it? He broke it?
No, he kind of jimmied the lock open. I was like, wow, this is really secure.
I would have pulled out a credit card and opened that thing up.
No.
Yeah, I like it when I go to places. This could be a whole show. When I ask people where their switch is or where their wireless router is or wireless access point, and I've found some things in crazy places. And I don't know why people would choose to put their switches and access points in the ceiling, but they do.
I've seen that. I've seen it. It's out of the way.
I'm walking around looking for switches because nobody knows where in the building these switches are.
You're like, I'm getting 5 bars.
And I see an extension cord, an orange extension cord plugged into the wall, and it goes up into the ceiling. And so I asked, what is this extension cord? What is this extension cord going to? Well, I don't know. Let's look. So we open the ceiling, the switch. Oh, there's one. So then every time we saw an orange extension cable go up the ceiling, we knew that was where a switch was.
Dude, I've seen that. I've experienced that with drop ceilings. They're a perfect place to put routers and access points.
No. Especially when you're nicely dressed and you climb on a ladder and you get that snow fairy dust and you start itching like you have a disease. It's not fun. Do not put them up there.
Droppings of animals is what you get on there too.
Yeah. Snow fairy dust.
I got news, Steve. Those above those drop ceilings, there's things going on up there you don't want to know about. And when you open those drop ceiling tiles and little white and black things fall down,
yes,
it's gross.
It is gross. But that's why I wear jeans and a polo shirt.
And an Apple shirt.
Sometimes on Fridays.
All right, guys, want to wrap this up?
Yep, sure.
Pop it.
Let's pop this thing. All right, Matt, we're last comments. Where can people find you? What do you want? Anything else? I did give your email address, but anything else you want to add?
And no, not today. I'm good. If they got the email address, that's all they need.
That's all
Matt
they need.
at podnutz.com. That's all anyone needs.
That's all everyone needs to sustain life.
That's
All
right.
Lalo, how about you?
Lalo at podnutz.com.
And we got a website you want to promote or plug?
Sure, betterpctech.com. I'm redoing with the videos. I got bags underneath my eyes. I can't sleep. Duke's barking. I can't get him to shut up because I record the videos and I get half hour into it and he starts barking.
Just use bark reduction.
But I'm not gonna taser him right there. What's wrong with you?
No, it's an audio.
What?
Use the audio plug-in, bark
sorry.
reduction.
Because Duke.
I'm not gonna tase you. Yeah.
No, I'm playing. But if you actually go to betterpctech.com, I am surprised no one had mentioned there's a Yorkie in the top left-hand corner. That was for Duke, and no one ever mentioned that. So
It's very techy. I guess
it's very
fit.
techy.
All right, and I think that's going to be it, guys. So I appreciate you hanging out, watching the show, downloading it, streaming it. If you're on the Roku box, we have video coming soon. Mary, thank you for coming by today. Appreciate it. That's going to be it for Podnutz Pro for this week. We'll see you guys next time.